Friends, nobody wants to have words like disappointment, depression, desperation, defeat, distraught, distress in their life dictionaries. Nobody wants to be defeated. Nobody wants to be disappointed in their lives. Nobody. Because these words are not good for human lives. They have never sounded good, nor they will ever be. However, these words become part of our lives. We become disappointed in life sometime. We become distressed in life sometime. We become depressed and desperate in life sometime. Now, these are natural things to happen. Now, the question is, can these things or should these things happen to a Christian? Should a Christian be disappointed? Should a Christian be depressed? Should a Christian be defeated? Should a Christian be crestfallen? Should a Christian retreat in life? Ideally speaking, a Christian should not. Now, add to this, we have something called the idea of a macho militaristic Christianity, which tells us that a Christian should never be defeated. A Christian should never be distraught. A Christian should never be at a low point of his life. A Christian should be always going up and up and up. The graph should be always higher. He should be always climbing up without plateauing or without plummeting. Now, that's what we have been hearing from this macho, militaristic, victory-driven Christianity. Ideally speaking, we should not live a defeated life. We should live a victorious life. But let me make the distinction between being victorious and being triumphalist. The idea that has been bombarded to us is triumphalism. Triumphalism teaches you that being desperate is a sin. Being distraught is uncharacteristic of a Christian. Today I would tell you it's not. Yes, we should not be defeated. Yes, we should not be distraught. But we should not be triumphalist. Paul would say that Christ helps us to lead a victorious life. Yes, we should be victorious. But we should not fall into this mold of triumphalism. Today I will bring an example from the Old Testament to help you understand that being desperate is not a sin. I would say that being desperate is natural. I'm not saying it is ideal, but there are times that we become desperate. I would say that God does not abandon you. God does not leave you out. It's not as if you're out of God's plan and purposes. It's not as if God is no longer interested in you. It's not as if you are no longer part of God's schemes or things if you are desperate or disappointed. So I would bring to your minds today the thought that the God of the desperate. Now, how does this God, a God who is righteous, perfect, who is holy, who is omnipotent, how does this God become a God of the desperate? He should not be on the side of the defeated. He should not be on the side of the desperate. He should be always on the side of the victorious. But today, as I said, I would talk to you on this idea of God of the desperate. And the character that I would present to you is called David. David. You see about David in the book of 1 Samuel chapter 16. That's when David comes onto the scene as a young boy, as a young shepherd boy who is anointed by the prophet Samuel to be the next king of Israel. He comes from the shepherding experience and he is anointed right in front of his brothers. And from then on, you see that the graph of David goes on. So he comes to Saul's palace. He helps the beleaguered king, a king who is mentally disturbed, a king who is without peace, a king who is often getting irritated, a king who is not able to hold his peace and mental, emotional stability. So you see this David helping this king out. And after that, you see the graph is going up. Then he becomes Saul's armor bearer. Then he becomes part of his army. And then you see that Saul is employing him for various other things. and he's telling to his father Jesse that I like this boy, I like this man. So you see that David is on a growth path. He's ascending. He's going up and up. He's going higher and higher. And in chapter 17, you see about David killing this Philistine champion called Goliath. You know, for so many days, Israel was not able to handle this man. Every day he comes out and he makes this defiant speech. He hurls out this mockery and insult on people, and nobody does anything. And you see this man comes and he handles him. He takes this risk. He goes with faith, and then he kills this man who had been taunting Israel. So in no time, David becomes the doyen of Israel. David becomes the hero in Israel. David becomes the talk of the town. He is sung. People sing praises to him. And later on, you also see that lot of accolades and relationship come into David's life. You see, soon after he kills Goliath, he becomes a friend of Jonathan. Now imagine, this is a shepherd boy who was not even regarded by his family, who was not recognized by his family, not even by his brothers. In 17, when he comes to the battle scene, he is berated, he is chided, he is, scolded by his brothers. Now, soon after he becomes a hero, you see the first relationship comes from the palace. Now, Jonathan, the king's son, becomes a close friend. In fact, the closest friend of David. And then David becomes very famous in the army. He goes out and meets with umpteen number of success, and he comes back, and then he becomes famous. Now, if you look at, chapter 17 and 18, there you will see that David is becoming very well known, from less known to somewhat known to very well known. So you see that he is the victorious David, the famous David, the popular David, who is going up and up. And his popularity, his upward trajectory, also ends with him becoming the son-in-law of Saul. Then you see, all on a sudden, the graph is going down. You see that the same father-in-law is turning against him. He is on a witch hunt. He is going after David. He is hounding him out. He wants to kill him. He wants to finish and eliminate him. Why? Because this man has become famous now. So the graph is coming down. So you see that in chapter 20 and 21, you see not that popular David. You don't see the David who was famous. You see a desperate David. Desperate David. So desperate was David that he comes to Nob. He comes and meets with this priest. And then he says, "What do you have?" The priest says, "Well, I have nothing. I have this consecrated bread. No, give me." No, he says, "No, this is not lawful for you to eat. It's only for the priests." So he eats that bread. And then he says, "Do you have anything? Sword?" He says, "Yeah, there is a sword here. The one with which you killed Goliath." "No, that's better." So he has now an instrument of warfare. Now he has eaten this consecrated bread. By now he should be, on the top of the world. But it does not happen. Even after being in the sanctuary, he is not recovering. He's going to Gath. He's going to King Achish, and he's pretending insanity. He's faking insanity. Where is that David? Where is that David who killed Goliath? Now this macho, militaristic, triumphalistic Christianity will tell you that David should have faced up to Saul. He should have faced up to Saul the way he faced up to Goliath. Why is he running away like a fugitive? This is the desperate David. Did God abandon him? Not at all. Did God put him aside? Not at all. Did God say to David that you're no longer part of my scheme of things? I'm going to remove you? Not at all. What happens? He becomes the God of the desperate. You see how he becomes. In chapter 22, he meets with his parents and brothers, and then he takes them to Moab and says, please keep them. He tells the king, please keep my parents until I find God's will for my life. So he keeps them securely there, and he is all alone. He is left abandoned like a fugitive is running. Did God leave him? No. He becomes the God of the desperate. How? God becomes the God of the desperate David by compensating, by compensation. He has lost everything, my friends. He has lost his popularity. He has lost his position. He has lost relationship. He has lost his wife temporarily, though. He had to run away from the wife. So this newly married man has run away from his wife. So he has lost the relationship of his wife, although temporarily. He has lost his closest friend. Now he has lost also his parents and his brothers temporarily. He is all alone in the lurch. And what does God do? God brings a group of people who comes and joins with him. So dear friends, God becomes the God of the desperate by compensating you, through compensation. What have you lost in life? Let me ask these questions. Have you lost relationship? Have you lost a ministry opportunity? Have you lost a dear one in your life? Are you all alone, left alone, abandoned, struggling to find your feet once again? Have you lost the popularity once you had? Don't worry. God is the God of desperate. May the God of David, the God of desperate, be your God today, and come to your aid, come to your solace, come to your strength in compensating what you have lost. May God bless you all.